Have you ever felt the chill of standing before a mountain so quiet, so untouched, that even time itself seems hesitant to breathe? Imagine this. You're facing a slender passage carved into ancient rock, a doorway that devours every drop of light, every whisper of sound, and every ounce of certainty. Welcome to Tales of Mythology, the realm where forgotten gods rise, ancient nightmares awaken, and hidden battles of the supernatural unfold. If unraveling the darker, unexplored corners of mythology excites you, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another epic tale. The tale begins on the shadowed slopes of Mount Karahora, where an explorer, driven by an obsession far heavier than simple curiosity, prepared for a journey no map had ever dared to describe. For years he hunted fragments, crumbling records, half-erased sketches, forgotten field notes, and whispered stories from villagers who refused to utter the mountain's name after dusk. Every clue led toward one destination, a supposed well. But nothing about it resembled anything mortals were believed capable of constructing. When he finally stood before it, the entrance looked less like a crack in the earth and more like a surgical incision, thin, vertical, impossibly flawless. The moment he descended, the first horror struck him. The walls were not raw stone. They were monumental blocks cut with a precision that bordered on the unnatural. No fractures, no seams, no tool marks. The torchlight didn't scatter. It slid across the surfaces as though gliding over polished alloy. Every edge aligned with absolute perfection. Every block touched the next with a seamlessness that defied time, erosion, and human craft. It is stone fitted so tightly that even a blade of grass could never slip between them, an early expedition report noted, one of the few documents that survived the silence that followed. This wasn't frightening because it was impossible. It was frightening because it shouldn't have been possible there. Deeper down, after a suffocating descent, the shaft opened into a chamber so immense it stole breath from every soul who entered. Imagine crawling out a narrow tunnel only to stand inside a cavern whose walls rose like skyscrapers, smooth, featureless, brutally straight. This wasn't architecture. It was intention. Cold, calculated intention. No carvings. No offerings. No remnants of life. Only a silent geometry that had never been meant for human eyes. No civilization known to history had ever produced anything like it. No ancient tools could have shaped these flawless monoliths. Yet the structure existed, hidden, untouched, waiting. The explorer noticed a disturbing familiarity. The same sterile, polished interior found deep inside the Great Pyramid. But here it stood on an isolated mountain far from any society capable of such mastery. One long-buried report made a chilling comparison. This place was never meant for living beings. Its design speaks not of shelter, but of function. Purpose, something beyond human need. That realization would haunt him forever. He continued downward, hoping for even the smallest sign of culture. Pottery shards, bones, carvings, soot, anything that could link the colossal enigma to a time period. But the deeper he went, the more absolute the emptiness became. No relics, no ash, no symbols, nothing. The structure disregarded human presence entirely, as though humans had never been part of the equation. A strange draft rose from the unseen depths. Not random, steady, mechanical, like the exhale of some vast machine still functioning beneath the mountain. Years later, theorists would speak of resonance chambers, ancient technology, sound engineering, or a massive subterranean network stretching far deeper than anyone had reached. But at that moment, the explorer felt only the crushing weight of the unknown closing in around him. Then he noticed the most unsettling detail of all. Everything was too perfect, too symmetrical, too intentional. The layout reflected no ritual, no culture, no habitation. It reflected precision, a design with an objective, a technical objective. In one of his few surviving notes he wrote, "This is no sanctuary, no burial chamber, no quarry. This place serves, or once served, a function far beyond any human civilization. And perfection, is a mask that hides something." The deeper he descended, the clearer the truth became. The mountain wasn't hiding a structure. It was hiding history. A truth so ancient, so incompatible with human timelines, that its existence threatened everything we think we know, and the silence around Karahora was not coincidence. It was deliberate, a warning. A forgotten diary fragment spoke the final omen, a line that echoes like a distant quake. Those who reach the heart of the mountain must understand. What lies sleeping there was never meant to be awakened. Its creators vanished, but their purpose did not. And the deeper you go, the more the earth remembers. The second expedition entered with this warning already haunting their steps. The second expedition entered Karahora under a completely different sky. This time there was no lone wanderer pursuing a private obsession. There was purpose, precision, a mission to measure every angle, track every shift in air pressure, and catalog every anomaly buried in the mountain's depths. The man leading this descent was the opposite of a dreamer. He distrusted speculation. His reputation was built on cold observation, slow analysis, and an almost surgical calm. As they moved downward, he dragged instruments across the walls, noting the uniformity of the stone, the unnatural rhythm between each block. Certain passages felt less like caves and more like engineered hallways. Space is conceived by a mind that valued exactness more than meaning. A line from his field journal captured it perfectly. No natural force behaves with such precision. Every transition feels intentional, without even the slightest hint of chance. The deeper they descended, the more the mountain revealed its silent geometry, a presence that didn't invite interpretation, yet demanded it with every step. Beneath the initial shaft, the chamber spread into a volume that unraveled every conventional archaeological framework. The walls rose in flawless, seamless verticals, shaped as though meant to house mechanisms rather than human beings. He noted something profoundly unsettling. There was no trace of ritual, no domestic clues, no symbols, no attempt at beauty or cultural expression. The second expedition entered Karahora under a completely different sky. This time there was no lone wanderer pursuing a private obsession. There was purpose, precision, a mission to measure every angle, track every shift in air pressure, and catalog every anomaly buried in the mountain's depths. The man leading this descent was the opposite of a dreamer. He distrusted speculation. His reputation was built on cold observation, slow analysis, and almost surgical calm. As they moved downward, he dragged instruments across the walls, noting the uniformity of the stone, the unnatural rhythm between each block. Certain passages felt less like caves and more like engineered hallways. Space is conceived by a mind that valued exactness more than meaning. A line from his field journal captured it perfectly. No natural force behaves with such precision. Every transition feels intentional, without even the slightest hint of chance. The deeper they descended, the more the mountain revealed its silent geometry, a presence that didn't invite interpretation, yet demanded it with every step. Beneath the initial shaft, the chamber spread into a volume that unraveled every conventional archaeological framework. The walls rose in flawless, seamless verticals, shaped as though meant to house mechanisms rather than human beings. He noted something profoundly unsettling. There was no trace of ritual, no domestic clues, no symbols, no attempt at beauty or cultural expression. It wasn't made for life. It was made for function. At times the echoes behaved strangely, ricocheting with a force out proportion to the chamber's size. This led to early theories of resonance or acoustic engineering, something constructed not for worship, but for operation. The angle-measuring explorer later wrote that the chamber responded to sound more like a device than an empty room. That implication weighed on him. According to his notes, the architecture is not purposeless. Its purpose is simply hidden. Silence here does not equal absence. It equals refusal. Their descent slowly shifted from neutral observation to a confrontation with the intelligence encoded in the stone. What unsettled them most was the air. A cold, steady draft rose from deeper levels, continuous, unnatural, mechanical. Instruments recorded a constant upward current, as though a larger system breathed beneath the mountain, whispering through the narrow opening they had entered. The explorer argued this meant more chambers existed far below, perhaps many. But the shaft grew more treacherous. The walls were so polished that ropes slipped unless anchored with extreme care. Despite the danger, they continued, marking each flawless surface with meticulous caution. They found no fractures, no collapsed sections, no organic traces, only stone blocks aligned with a logic so strict it bordered on inhuman. While reviewing the footage later, the man murmured, "This is an erosion, nor sediment, nor collapse. This is an ancient order maintained where chaos should rule." Neither he nor his colleague explained who or what had created such immaculate subterranean architecture. When they returned to the surface, there should have been excitement, inquiries, institutional interest, but nothing came. Their footage aired once on a minor channel with no commentary. No academic request followed. No geologist questioned the impossible straight shafts. It was as if both mountain and structure had been erased from public memory in real time. Both men felt it. The silence wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Attempts to present their findings were met with locked offices, evaporating emails, and quiet refusals. A soft, offhand remark from a colleague haunted them long afterward. Some discoveries aren't ignored by mistake. They're ignored because accepting them would force us to rewrite reality. That single whisper lingered longer than any official rejection. Then came the shadows that would swallow Kahora's story. Shortly after declaring his intention to continue the investigation, the first explorer was struck by a vehicle under circumstances that never quite added up. The timing alone chilled his colleague. Undeterred, the second man pressed on until 2 years later. He too was gone, officially due to a sudden illness. Their deaths weren't isolated. Others connected to their research followed, each case prompting murmurs of sabotage, quiet removal, or intentional silencing. No evidence surfaced, but the pattern could not be ignored. The region drifted into silence. Expeditions stopped. Maps disappeared. Mentions of the site evaporated from records as though the mountain itself had swallowed them. A final surviving line in one of the explorer's notebooks reads, "If anything happens to me, remember, the mountain does not guard itself. What surrounds it is not protection, but guardianship. And someone, somewhere, fears what sleeps below." Long before modern explorers ever set foot on the slopes of Karahora, the mountain had already drawn the attention of a far more secretive and far more relentless force. During the global turmoil that tore through the 20th century, a covert division operated behind the official veil of strategic military presence. Publicly, their mission involved securing vital oil routes. Privately, another faction within their ranks pursued something entirely different. They hunted myths. They followed ancient sigils, obscure folklore, and fragments of forgotten lore pointing toward a hidden structure buried deep within the Caucasus. Their movements left almost no paper trail. Yet one remnant of their presence survived. A lone symbol carved directly into the rock near a concealed entrance on the mountainside. Weathered by decades, but still unmistakable, it stood as a silent testimony that someone had reached the threshold of the same enigma long before the modern world rediscovered it. The appearance of that symbol sparked an investigation into the shadowy unit behind it, formed under the influence of a leader obsessed with reconstructing an imagined ancestral past. The secret organization wandered remote landscapes, searching for physical proof to validate their ideology. An archival note, uncovered years later, hinted at their true interests. The Caucasus may conceal remnants of civilization older than recorded culture, traces capable of illuminating an age before history began. This single cryptic line revealed that their motives were not strategic at all. They were mythological ambitions disguised as science. They believed the mountains had the roots of an ancient bloodline, and that somewhere on those slopes lay an entrance to a forgotten structure tied to their imagined origins. Their expedition files remain shattered and incomplete, but one pattern persists: carved symbols appearing near isolated, unnatural openings. These markings suggest they came far closer to the truth than they ever admitted. Yet the most disturbing detail was not what they left behind, but what they found. Another carving, discovered far from their operational routes, bore an entirely different age. This second symbol was far older, carved long before any modern ideology existed. Its design echoed motifs found across ancient civilizations, predating the political corruption of such symbols by thousands of years. The early explorer who documented it wrote, "This cannot be dismissed as vandalism. The depth and erosion indicate an age well beyond 20th century presence. This opened a chilling possibility. The wartime unit had not introduced a symbol, they had stumbled upon it, which meant their search was guided not by invention, but by signs left by a much older chain of seekers. Generations of them, each drawn toward the same silent anomaly buried under stone and time. As researchers reconstructed the surviving accounts, a clearer narrative emerged. The wartime investigators were pursuing whispered legends of an underground realm. Some described a subterranean city, others a vast engineered structure created by an unknown people whose mastery blurred the line between technology and myth. And their obsession wasn't baseless. Local villagers spoke of doors in the mountain and wind rising from the stone even when the world is still. Stories dismissed by historians, but identical to the unnatural airflow modern explorers recorded decades later. One scholar who examined the wartime materials concluded, if even half the records are correct, they were not searching blindly. They followed ruins, anomalies, and patterns leading toward a hidden complex of enormous scale. After the war ended, nearly every document related to their covert expeditions vanished, destroyed, sealed, or absorbed into classified vaults. Only fragments survived. Maps stripped of labels and sign notes, sketches of a vertical structure eerily similar to the shaft later discovered by independent explorers. One unofficial testimony, preserved only because someone quietly refused to burn it, offered a final, ominous insight into the minds of those early investigators. The mountain guards a truth history refuses to acknowledge, and if we fail to reach its core, another age will come to try again. The surviving line casts a long shadow over Karahora. It suggests that the quest to unveil the mountain's secret did not begin with modern explorers, nor did it end with wartime operatives. It is a chain stretching across centuries, each generation driven by symbols, by whispers, and by the quiet promise that beneath the stone lies something too ancient, too consequential, and too dangerous to be forgotten.